Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, FY 2021 Smart Policing Initiative Grant Program, hosted by the Bureau of Justice Assistance. At this time, I'd like to introduce today's presenter, Kate McNamee, Senior Policy Advisor of Law Enforcement with the Bureau of Justice Assistance. Kate?
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our webinar focused on the 2021 Smart Policing Competitive Grant Program. My name is Kate McNamee, as Daryl mentioned, and I have oversight at BJA over SPI, and I'm pleased to be with all of you today. And big thanks to Daryl and the Leidos team for supporting this webinar today, as well as my colleagues, Will Bradson and Gisela Barnes, who are joining me today from the BJA Policy Office, or excuse me, Programs Office. As an overview of today's webinar, we will be talking about what SPI is and what it has achieved for the policing field, who is eligible to apply, and what activities and purchases funds can support, where we are focusing the solicitation's purpose areas in 2021, what a competitive application demonstrates, OJP's priority areas for this year, important steps in the application process, given that there is a new application system at the Office of Justice Programs, and where applicants can seek out assistance. And I'll then open the webinar up for Q&A. The SPI program has existed since 2009, and its goal has been to support law enforcement's efforts to identify and test innovative and evidence-based solutions to their most pressing policing challenges and crime problems. Over the last decade, we have increased law enforcement agencies' use of innovative technology, intelligence, and data. We have encouraged collaboration among key crime reduction partners and promoted evidence-based practices and encouraged sustainable partnerships between police and researchers. And by injecting science into policing practice, SPI benefits both the individual jurisdiction's work and capacity to fight violent crime and improve community relations. It also provides the policing field with the information on what works in crime reduction. Thus far, we have supported 73 law enforcement agencies as they change the way they do business. The central way we do this is to competitively award funding to support initiatives that improve law enforcement agencies' crime fighting and community engagement capacities. Under SPI, which is released as a solicitation annually, jurisdictions compete to receive funding for 3-year initiatives. The proposed project must target a pressing operational, technology implementation, or crime reduction issue for intervention or implementation. Sites must partner with researchers to evaluate their progress and results. And in terms of what types of initiative SPI supports, it is a very broad portfolio, with police departments addressing issues related to violent crime reduction, technology implementation, crime analysis, capacity building, addressing dangerous people and places, and innovative approaches to individuals in mental health or substance use crisis. After receiving an SPI award, SPI sites have access to intensive training and technical assistance, and that has been a key to SPI's success. And you can learn more at smart-policing.com. Here is a sampling of what SPI has enabled local jurisdictions to accomplish. In Boston, the SPI project resulted in a significant increase in its homicide clearance rate. In Los Angeles, Operation Laser was associated with a 56% decrease in homicide in the selected target area. LAPD has since increased its use of the SPI approach to reduce homicides and non-fatal shootings throughout the city. It received another SPI award to experiment with machine learning and homicide clearance data. Rochester, New York's SPI project resulted in the development and validation of a risk assessment tool to predict retaliatory gun violence disputes. The project is associated with an extended decline in aggravated assaults and murder in the city that still continues. Kansas City, Missouri, their first SPI-supported project focused deterrence and was associated with a 40% decrease in homicides and 19% decrease in gun assaults. In Commerce City, Colorado, the SPI supported a sexual assault task force and enabled them to manage a 46% increase in sexual assault investigations, and they received an award for their efforts. These examples are meant to illustrate the diversity and complexity of the work underway in SPI. Equally importantly, it also shows the importance of evaluating each site's implementation and outcome of their SPI intervention, so successful approaches can be promoted to the policing field generally. Who is an eligible applicant? Well, we are very broad here. State, local, and tribal law enforcement agencies, first and foremost, police departments, sheriff's agencies, governmental non-law enforcement agencies who act as a fiscal agent for a specific law enforcement agency, and that would include state universities acting on behalf of their university police department, as long as it's a state institution. Tribal governments that perform law enforcement functions, as well as tribal consortia. Two or more entities absolutely can be involved in a project. We actually are very fond of partnerships under SPI, but only one can serve as the lead applicant. And of course, this is BJA-wide, but all recipients and subrecipients must forego any profit or management fee. Common and allowable costs that can be supported with SPI funds or are new personnel, overtime support, technology, both hardware and software, data analysis support, which includes the research partnership, a professional evaluator, and crime analysis support. Grant amounts are capped at $500,000 for each award, regardless of the purpose area you apply to. Research partnerships have proven to be crucial to ensuring that SPI projects outcomes are validly measured and lets us know what works and should be shared as a promising practice. The solicitation for 2021 requires each project to devote 20% of the budget to supporting the work of the evaluator or research partner. We have found that any less than that, and the research is not adequately funded. We are interested in both implementation and outcome data, as both help us educate the field on not only what new practices to adopt, but how they should adopt them. And ultimately, SPI is a two-way street, as individual sites are able to get resources to try new approaches and change the way they do business, and we get to learn from you and share the lessons with the field. We are often asked about who or what a research partner is. It can be someone from a university, a nonprofit, a private entity, or a government organization. It should be an individual with past experience working with public agencies, especially criminal justice agencies, using action research, broad experience and familiarity with methodologies used in program evaluation and criminal justice research, and several years of evaluation research experience. There are two separate purpose areas in this year's solicitation. The first supports projects that implement innovative approaches to crime reduction or police operations, while Purpose Area 2 supports technology-driven initiatives that promote public safety and address a particular crime or operational issue in the applicant jurisdiction. You absolutely may apply to both, but they should be different projects. Purpose Area 1 is focused on innovative and evidence-based policing practices. I would highly recommend visiting smart-policing.com and take a look at the projects highlighted there. In particular, the projects in Los Angeles, Tempe, Arizona, Detroit, Chicago, Portland, Oregon, and Brooklyn Park, Minnesota may prove to be very interesting to prospective applicants. These illustrate the breadth of crime issues and organizational challenge SPI has helped police agencies tackle. The following areas were identified as having particular urgency or interest in the policing world, and we have an interest in exploring how police agencies can reduce disparities in services and support to historically marginalized communities, partnerships among mental health, substance use, social workers, and disability advocates with police that increase officer and public safety, new approaches to crisis response, and initiatives that increase law enforcement's ability to successfully investigate shootings and gun assaults that are driving violence in a given community, as well as to more fruitfully engage survivors and witnesses. Purpose Area 2 is focused on technology or information sharing solutions that help agencies address a specific operational issue or type of crime. I would advise looking at projects previously funded under this purpose area at smart-policing.com, specifically see projects funded in Houston, Texas, Washington, D.C., Roanoke, Virginia, Salisbury, North Carolina, and Anniston, Alabama. Excuse me. BJA has identified areas of particular interest for Purpose Area 2 as well. They include projects that examine social network or geospatial analysis approach or application to violent crime reduction and community trust building, activities that support the implementation of community violence intervention strategies, and I will talk more about this concept in a bit, implementation of the Cardiff violence prevention model, the development of real-time crime centers in communities with high rates of violence and gun crime, the testing and expansion of the use of BICAP by state and local law enforcement, and the development and testing of web-based dashboards meant to increase agency transparency to the public. Since SPI is a well-established program, over the past almost 2 decades, we've identified specific elements or themes that are key to successful projects. Strong support from the chief of the department, who is willing to message that the SPI project is a high priority. A clear evidence-based plan to examine the drivers of crime problems or organizational challenges and base the intervention on the findings of that analysis. A willingness to change standard operating procedures and other business practices and be open to opportunities for improvement. And a commitment to keeping up the work after the grant ends so that successful approaches remain in place and continue to benefit the agency and the community. So in FY 2021, OJP will give priority consideration in award decisions, excuse me, priority considerations of applications that support the implementation of community violence intervention strategies, or CVI strategies. These are strategies that identify high-risk individuals and focus community-based interventions and assistance on those individuals to prevent further violence, further criminal behavior, and improves outcomes for those people in those communities. There is guidance as to specific narrative that should be attached to your application in the solicitation to document the project's support or use of CVI. Jurisdictions experiencing high levels of poverty may also receive priority consideration in FY21. SPI projects are complex, so we allot 36 months for implementation and evaluation and up to $500,000 to support each site's work. Evidence-based practices is often a buzzword, but it is very real and tangible to us. And that is what we are looking to support under SPI. You must back up your proposed project with data-based reasoning and approaches. There is no match for this program, and these will be awarded as grants. And the start date will be October 1st, 2021 or later. And of particular importance, there will be a two-stage application process this year. This year, we have a new grants management system and a new two-step grant application process to go along with it. This means that you have two deadlines to keep in mind. The first is a grants.gov deadline to submit your SF424 and lobbying disclosure form. The second, applicants submit their full application into the Just Grant system. Both of these steps are required, and there's further guidance available in the solicitation on the exact process. Please review the DOJ application submission checklist, which covers all the steps you have to take to complete your submission process. Now, these are important dates to remember. We released the solicitation on May 19th, and the grants.gov deadline for your SF424 and lobbying disclosure is July 6th. The Just Grants submission deadline for your full application and attachment is July 20th, 2021. There will be no exceptions given if you miss the grants.gov deadline. So my best advice to you, if you plan to apply, to do that as soon as possible, that first part. Just Grants, I realize many of you are new to the system, and the intent of Just Grants launched last October was to streamline the grant award and management process. And it was also intended to enable users to have new ways to manage their information in the system. An important enhancement is the ability to use a web-based budget detail worksheet that establishes a shared structure and narrative for all DOJ grant programs. And a streamlined validation project will hopefully help us clear budgets more quickly. Now, optimally, this is how it is supposed to go, but new systems have their challenges, and should you run into any trouble, there is support available in the way of tutorials, background materials to enhance your interface with Just Grants. And this is a link to those resources. Just Grants requires that you submit a web-based budget form, and as I previously mentioned, this is new this year. And the direct cost rate agreement should be an attachment. Also, you require the financial management questionnaire and the executive compensation disclosure. Training is available on all of this on the Just Grants page. We are maintaining ongoing support to applicants by the OJP Response Center, and here is their contact information. If you run into any technical difficulties with your submission, please let the Response Center know immediately so that can be documented. And also subscribe to receive information related to new funding opportunities and other helpful resources as they're released. And here we listed some resources that should prove useful as you put your applications together. Here is my contact information, should it be needed. That's by email at catherine.mcnamee@usdoj.gov. And here is all the ways that you can stay connected with us, and we truly hope that you do. As well as, next slide, key contacts for your application submission process. Now I will turn it back to Daryl for Q&A. So what do we have, Daryl?
Thanks, Kate. A couple are coming in now. Just a reminder to those that do have questions or want to submit, please go to the bottom right-hand side of your screen, click the three dots, and you can enter your question in the Q&A icon there. If your agency has never worked with a researcher in the past, do you have a recommendation on the best way to start this process or where to turn?
Yes, we have a lot of materials available through our Innovation Suite program that talks about the ways that you can find a research partner, what to look for in a research partner. We can try to get those links and send them out following the webinar. But this is something that we've developed a lot of materials on. One of the best resources for you is probably your local university or college. Most of them have if not a criminal justice section, then a sociology section that might have professors who are very interested in collaborating, with police departments, especially now under the current environment. So that would be my advisement of your first step, but definitely take a look at the Innovation Suite guidance that we have on establishing research partnerships.
Can the 20% for the evaluation also support police department personnel and analysts who are assisting with the evaluation? Or is it restricted to funding the only research partner directly?
I think there's some wiggle room on that. If you can demonstrate that the personnel will be spending a defined amount of time supporting the evaluation efforts, then I think you may be in a safe territory there. But that would be on a case-by-case basis.
Another question came in about the slides. And to everybody on the call, the PowerPoint transcript and recording from today will be posted to the BGA website within about 5 to 10 business days. So yes, you can go back and take a look at this slide, this presentation as you need for any information. That's all that's in the queue at this time. We can hang on for a moment. Anybody else has a question, please enter it in. Kate will be able to certainly answer it for you. The slide here, just for reference too, as Kate mentioned, anything technical assistance related to grants.gov, their information is listed. Just Grants, the new process for the full application. You can contact them here at this number and email. And then anything programmatically, the HGP Response Center is a wonderful resource, very responsive. So you can give them a call or an email. That seems to be it at this time, Kate.
Okay.
Oh, here's one to come in. Can applicants propose projects or programs that have been implemented in other cities?
Yes. Yes. We are very interested in issues and projects that commonly are faced by police departments. Replication of previously instituted projects at other organizations is fine. We have done that quite a bit. I would just advise, in order to be competitive, that you advise how this will provide new information to the policing field.
That's all that's in the queue at this time.
We'll give it another 30 seconds.
While we're here, I'll also put up this Stay Connected slide for those that want to get email updates. You can do text to subscribe, social media links here, and also BJ's website. A lot of great information and links for you to reference.
Yeah, and I know I said this a couple times in the webinar, but smart-policing.com, highly recommend you go through that. There are lots of publications in there that describe what our past research partnerships have looked like in the evaluations that have come out of SPI projects. It'll give you a real feel for what the portfolio is trying to do and where we try to focus. And we do, I want to be also very clear that there's kind of like a common fear that if you're not a huge police department with a high crime rate or what have you, that you won't be as competitive for an SPI program award. That is not true. We tried very hard to have diversity not only in subject matter in SPI, but also the types of organizations that we include as SPI organizations. Sheriff's departments, state police, police departments of all sizes have participated. So I just wanted to put that out there in case that is a concern.
If the researcher is internal, can overtime be paid to that person to conduct the research?
Our first concern is that the research partner be qualified. And so if you can demonstrate that that person is qualified to be the research partner to perform the evaluation as you present it, then I think that that is fine. Can overtime be paid to that person to do the research? Technically, yes, but we also look for feasibility in SPI projects. We look at that very closely, and I know that I would be concerned about this being relegated to an overtime rather than a primary responsibility of the individual charged with the research evaluation work, because it really should, to be done right, it's going to take a lot of their time.
Is there a recommendation on if the funds can be or should be allocated to technology procurement or implementation?
It can be. Absolutely. We have current projects who are in the process of procuring new technology.
And actually, in more detail, I read it wrong, Kate. How much? Is there a recommendation on how much? Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. We don't have a cap necessarily beyond ensuring that you have resources reserved for all aspects of your project that need to be supported, such as the research partnership and personnel. So there's no specific cap on procurement, but of course, we do expect you to abide by the limits that are in place for your organization and any sole source requirements that we have on the BJA end. And Gisela and Will, if you have anything to add to that particular response, please just let me know.
Kate, I think this is Gisela. I think your response is correct. When anything with overtime, we will really scrutinize and look at it. So I believe your response is sufficient for now. Like you said, it is a case by case basis.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Gisela.
This is Will. Totally agree. Great job, Kate, as always.
Thanks, Will.
There's a couple people asking about the innovation suite and where they could find that.
Mm-hmm. We will send that out. I can try. If we're going to wait a couple seconds for any additional questions, I can do a quick Google.
And then I can ask another one while you're searching that.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a place or process for entities interested in assisting as a research partner to connect with agencies having difficulty identifying one?
I know that George Mason Center for Evidence-Based Practices maintained a list for a long time of folks that are interested in becoming research partners. I would highly recommend just reach out to me. I would welcome an email or a phone call from you if you are interested in being connected with a police agency who's looking for a research partner, I'd be happy to play that role.
Hey, Kate, this is Gisela. Is it safe to reassure the grantees if they do not have a research partner per se at this moment, but they still want to apply, they should still go ahead and apply, and we could work on finding a research partner if they're actually awarded? I guess I just want to don't want anyone to get discouraged from applying, even though they may not at this time have identified a research partner.
They can certainly apply and put that in as a TBD personnel-wise in their application and put it as, you know, a placeholder in their budget. But, you know, they will be evaluated again on the feasibility of their project. And so not having that in place going in may negatively affect that score.
Okay.
Okay, we could always, if we can make a formal kind of email and send it out to today's attendees with that link and anything else that you want to include if we need to.
That sounds good.
Another one came in. Would funding a social worker paired with an officer to address crime associated with homelessness meet with what BJ is looking for in this program in the underserved community area?
Certainly, and I would advise that you go on smart-policing.com and look at the work that took place in Sacramento, where we focused on that exact issue.
So it's in the queue at this time.
Give it 30 more seconds.
Any other questions from those attending? Please go ahead and enter that in the Q&A. Glad to answer it. I think that may be it for today.
Okay. Well, thank you everyone for participating. I look forward to reading all of your applications, and best of luck in the process. I know that you've had a big drink from my fire hose today as far as information and resources, but please do reach out if you have any questions, especially to the OJP Response Center. And I'd like to thank Gisela and Will, my colleagues from the Programs Office, for joining today, and also Daryl and his team at Leidos for making today possible. So thank you all.
Great. So on behalf of Bureau of Justice Assistance and our panelists, we want to thank you for joining today's webinar. This will end today's presentation.